I'd like to call to order the Bloomington Historic Preservation Commission meeting for Thursday, November 9th, 2023. Dee, will you do the roll call, please?
Marlene Newman,
Here.
Ernesto Castaneda, Daniel Schlegel,
Here.
Sam DeSoller,
Here.
Matthew Seddon,
Here.
John Saunders,
Here.
Elizabeth Mitchell, Allison Chopra, Bernard Cross,
Here.
Duncan Campbell, Kirsten Hawley, Karen Duffy,
Oh, Kristen is online. I just haven't made her a co-host yet, but Kristen Holly is here.
And I'm Karen Duffy, I'm here.
All right, very good. Thank you, Dee.
Chris Sturbaum, is that?
No, Chris.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Dee. All right, let's move on. And I need to get approval for our minutes from our last meeting, October 26th.
I move we approve the minutes. Yes. Second.
All right. Dee, will you do the roll call, please?
Marlene Newman. Daniel Schlegel,
Yes.
Oh, you already did, I'm sorry, I didn't see that you were the first person.
Sam DeSoller,
Yes.
Matthew Seddon,
Here. Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
Bernard Cross.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thanks, Dee. All right, let's move on to COAs. And we have COA 23-82, which was the staff review, and that's 522 West 4th Street.
So can I give my...
Absolutely.
So I wanted to give a bit of news. December 15 is going to be my last day working with the city of Bloomington.
I did the same thing.
The minute you said, I also moved on.
But I did want to make sure that I gave my most profound thanks to each of the commissioners for all of the work and cooperation that you've given me in the last 2.5 years, making this a brilliant, enlivening, and just amazing experience all around with all of its, all that comes with it. But anyways, I just wanted to say thank you, and let's get back to business. And I will be seeing, hopefully, most of you tomorrow at the retreat, so we can talk about that later. And final reminder, we will get kicked out of here at 7 p.m. because there is another meeting at that time in the McCloskey room. So let's get the show on the road, and let's go to the first staff review.
All right.
So COA 23-82 for 522 West 4th Street in the Greater Prospect Hill Historic District. The petitioner requested siding change from asbestos siding to cement board with 6-inch exposure, and staff approved this. So this was our only staff approved certificate of appropriateness at this time. Give me 1 second, I need to admit all. Okay. And now on to the...
Yes, commission review. We'll do COA 23-83, 309 South Davidson Street. And I believe our petitioner is with us.
Yes.
Gary.
So, staff, giving my staff report, the petitioner is requesting partial demolition for 309 South Davidson Street in the Greater Prospect Hill Historic District. So this is a case where the owner had begun the demolition process as part of an extensive rehabilitation of the structure. When the owner's architect, the petitioner, Barry Clapper, approached city staff regarding the completion of the work, staff recommended that demolition be brought into compliance through a COA application. So this partial demolition is, for more context, in order to rebuild certain parts or to add an addition that is going to be coming later on. The petitioner can speak a little bit more. And in fact, I would like to, after giving my presentation, give the floor to the petitioner for a minute, just so that she can give a bit more context. But that all said, petitioner does recommend approval of COA 23-83. This is a property that the owner had originally brought before the HPC some years ago as a full demolition. And now what they are doing is they're actually working on an extensive rehabilitation with an expansion, a new addition on the back. Sorry. So, subcommittee comments. We do have a member of the subcommittee online, and if you have questions, I believe we can give him a minute to speak as well. But here is a list of the work to be completed, work already completed to date. So new concrete footing has been poured into the existing limestone foundation walls. So the foundations were part of the reason that the owner had wanted to demolish this building a couple of years ago, I think in 2000, some years ago, was because the foundations were very wonky. So part of the work that's been done is to stabilize the foundations and partially, or if not fully, rebuild them. The front floor structure was removed due to its deteriorated condition. The wood handrails, tongue and groove porch flooring, and full and partial porch columns have been salvaged. Piers for the porch column has been constructed and have attachment plates to accept the existing porch columns. An 8x10 rear addition has been removed to its overall poor condition. This addition was not original to the building. The original undersized floor joist and center beam have been replaced, but this is in the interior of the building. The original wood windows and half-light wood panel doors have been salvaged. Contemporary metal storage shed has been removed. Work has been done to the exterior. So the owner of, so May 2022, the owner and July 23 was actually in 2020 as well, sought to demolish the existing house. This request was not granted, and therefore the owner is working on stabilizing the building. But a second COA will be brought forth in order to work with the, continue working with the rehab and with the addition to the building. And I believe there's an detached structure that's accessory structure that is being proposed as well. And with that, I will give the floor a moment to Barry Clapper if she would desire.
Maybe I should just kind of speak
Yes.
here, if that's okay?
Please.
So I'm Barry Clapper with Spring Point Architects and representing Aviva Ornstein, who is the owner of the property, and Steve Reddick, who is the contractor, is also here if you have any questions. We wanted to, after speaking, when I learned that work was ongoing at the property and saw the extent to which the remediation work, the structural remediation work had gone, I reached out to Gloria, as she stated, because there were certain parts of the building that were no longer there, and we felt that there was a little bit of process that should have happened. So we wanted to bring this before you, and I have detailed the work, the components of work that have transpired. But at this point, there really are just three things that this demolition COA is really requesting. So a number of the of components have been salvaged and are securely held off-site, and we have every intention of bringing them back and reintegrating them into the house. But the front porch floor system, we're asking for a COA so that would be replaced. That material will not be coming back due to its poor condition. It was not salvageable. The skirt board around the perimeter of the building, because the new joist depth is deeper than the original floor joist, we will need to come back with a new skirt. We have salvaged the cap, and we need to take a closer look at that to see whether or not that could be reinstalled. So at this point, we know that we will be introducing new material there. And then the old addition that was in the northeast corner of the property, in sort of the back corner, that is, you cannot really see from the street, that was removed and demolished completely. And so that is gone, and that material is gone. And that is the location where we are planning to do a more expanded addition to the structure. And it is our hope that in the next month or two, we'll come back before you and to bring that design as well as any other aspects that we think need further consideration on the existing structure. We'll roll that into that next COA process. So that's kind of where we are at this point.
All right, thank you, Barry.
Sure.
So let's move to questions. Bernard?
So, in Gloria's preamble, it was mentioned that this has been before the HPC before.
In 2020,
For
full demolition.
full demolition. Is the owner the same owner?
Yes.
Yes.
So the owner knew that coming to the HPC was a requirement.
Well, I don't think, can I answer?
Mhm.
Sorry, I don't, so the owner initially had wanted to demolish the structure, and so that was the original COA, or would have been a demolition delay, I don't know at that time.
Demolition.
COA.
Okay.
No,
okay.
COA.
It would have been a COA, okay.
Right.
So, I think when, it became clear that that was not, obviously that was not granted, then the move was to remediate, there were a lot of structural issues. And so the move was to remediate, the different components, mainly, the floor framing and the foundation work. I don't think that the contractor and the owner realized at that point that they needed to come forward with another COA to rebuild those areas.
But please correct me if I'm wrong, but the same regulations to speak to total demolition also speaks of partial demolition. So is it that you just read the first paragraph
Yes.
and didn't read the rest of the regulations?
I do not know. This is the situation that we're in at this point. That's why we wanted to come before you now. My understanding that it wasn't intentional. They did not realize that this work needed to be reviewed as well before it moved forward with the remediation.
I'll reserve it for comments.
Okay.
Thank you, Bernard.
Question I had.
Daniel?
And Barry, I'm sorry, you said for this COA, it was the skirt, a cap, and...
The front porch floor structure
That's right.
and the rear addition, the old rear addition that was not original to the building, which housed the only bathroom. That was added, that was an added
Okay.
addition that
Is
was
it
later.
that?
Section, okay.
Is it that piece?
That's that piece right there on that right side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's all I
Okay,
had. Thanks,
yeah.
Barry.
Chris?
No questions?
Marlene? No, Matthew? Karen?
So there was a mistake in the dates. That
Yeah,
should have both
okay.
been 2020.
Okay.
Okay,
Good.
so I apologize,
I was gonna
yes.
ask, because the second date is so.
So much later than the first.
It's so recent
Right.
to now.
Right.
That was,
Yeah,
I just
that was a
wanted to
typo.
make sure, okay.
I appreciate you
I'm
bringing that up.
glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Sam, questions?
No questions.
Okay. Kirsten?
No questions.
All right, I see Richard has his hand up.
Excuse me.
Richard? Yeah.
Hi, all. Good evening. Thank you for your time tonight. Just to identify myself, I'm Richard Lewis. I'm a member of the Design Review Committee in Greater Prospect Hill Historic District, speaking only for myself as an individual member of that committee. In general, I would agree that I'm not a fan of after-the-fact COA requests for things that have already been removed. However, I do appreciate, having driven by this house or walked by this house over the past few years, the amount of work that's gone into it, the drainage work that's been done, which has been extensive, the foundation work that's been done, which is also extensive. So I appreciate the fact that they are actually trying to structurally rehabilitate this house so that it can be a usable structure once again for the owners and within our neighborhood. So in general, I'm supportive of the request. The removal of the addition, since it is apparently not an original structure, would not technically qualify as removal of original materials. If they're preserving some of the other elements that can be restored to the house, that's great. I can certainly understand that the house, which faces west, and so the front porch then probably received a lot of the brunt of the weather, and if there was a leaky roof, that those elements would have to be kind of replaced in kind. But that is also, I think, an acceptable action within our guidelines. So, as an individual member of our design review committee, I'm supportive of this sort of retroactive COA request. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
The owner also has her.
Yeah, I saw that. Aviva? There you go.
Okay, I can talk without a video. I do just want to apologize and assure everyone this was not some kind of a trick to get around the rules at all. We accepted the decision with heavy hearts that we had to raise up the structure and dig out from under it, which we did, and fix the foundation. And I'm really proud of the quality of the work and what we're doing. And it's really on me that I didn't realize that I had to come back, because I thought I was comporting with what you guys told me to do. So I realize that ignorance is not a defense, but I do want to reassure you that it was not at all an attempt to violate the rules. There was absolutely no ill intent, and I will be just super careful to consult with, and it certainly is not Barry's fault. As soon as she saw it, she came and said, "You must go immediately and do this." So she was correcting my error. And so I promise you that I will consult with Barry more closely and not spring things on her. But we were really following the plan that we understood from the commission, doing it the way we were told to do it. And I will come back to you before, I will work out with Barry exactly when we need permission before we do another step. And we immediately halted all work as soon as Barry told us we needed to come to you.
All right. Thank you very much. Anybody else online have questions?
If you have anybody online has questions, they can use the raise hand feature on Zoom.
Anybody back behind us have any questions? All right, good enough. Let's move on to comments. Renard?
I have an issue with claims of ignorance when it comes to things like these, and where I may be convinced of the honest mistake. I find it hard to accept that this is the case because of the fact that the person had been here before, right? So even if you didn't know for partial demolition, you certainly should have known enough to ask. And I just can't accept that, and I believe that we, a lot of times we let people off without warning or strong talking to. I've often, maybe it's just my perspective on life, but I believe the more we let people off, is the more likely this is to happen. I believe that a message needs to be sent. I believe that there needs to be some sort of sanction. Well, what are we going to do next time and the next time and the next time and the next time this happens? There was a gentleman that came here, about a month ago with a roof issue. We let them off with a warning. I've never been, I don't think I've been on this committee. I've been here over 2 years. And I don't think since I've been here we've ever sanctioned somebody for something like this. And I'm asking, when are we going to start attaching meaningful consequences when things like these are done? I believe that we need to start doing it now, and you know, I feel for the owner of the property. But when you knew enough to come here in the first instance, something should have said to you, you know, let me just check. Let me just cover that base just in case. Let me just pick up the phone and call Gloria just to confirm that I don't need a COA. And Gloria would have said, no, certainly you do need a COA, and this is the process. I believe that there needs to be some consequence for not for moving forward with this without receiving the appropriate permissions.
Thank you, Renard. I think that's a good thing for us to talk about tomorrow at our retreat. All right, thank you very much for that point of view. Appreciate that. Daniel?
No comments.
Chris?
Yeah, I remember designating this house, and I mean, keeping it from being demolished, and that was the will of the commission. And if they had turned around and demolished it, then I would be completely on board about let's fine them and such. But I think they're just fixing the house, and these are technicalities. And the goal of keeping that neighborhood intact was a strong statement. They really wanted to build a new house there. But, you know, we exercised our historic guidance and said this is important as part of the existing neighborhood, and the form is going to still be there. And they're executing what we asked them to do. You know, they just stepped in a hole, and it's a small hole, and a lot of people do, because the work just goes on. And I suggest that we praise them for taking care of things. I'm glad they're getting in here and cleaning this up. And the goal of the commission will be realized by their continued work on this house it'll be here for another 100 years now.
Thank you, Chris. Marlene?
I agree with Chris.
Thank you. Matthew?
Yeah, you know, Renard, you have made very cogent, very good arguments about this a couple times now, and I don't disagree with you on the principle. I myself really took someone to task about a year ago for sort of allowing their house to fall apart and then coming and asking for a demolition delay, removal. But I also agree with John. I think this is a recurring problem that we would best solve through policy. I think it'd be more fair for us to figure out or propose something that applicants, citizens could know in advance. If you blow it, these are the consequences, and that, you know, we can exercise a certain amount of judgment. For example, we could have several different levels of warning to, I don't know, what, you give me the house, whatever it is. But that was a joke. That was a joke. But so, having said that, I think we should talk about that, whether that's tomorrow or at some other point, because it is a recurring problem and it's frustrating to everyone, including the poor applicants who are often falling on their swords and can't do anything about their mistake. So, having said that, I would say in this case, since we're talking about the demolition of a small portion of the house that was a later addition, the rest of the house was an intense amount of work to keep the historical character of the house, preserve that as part of the neighborhood. I'm inclined to go ahead and grant this one, but basically for those reasons. This does not look like demolition by neglect in any way, shape, or form. And we've got a proponent who's a good actor here, who's trying to do the right thing. So, them's my comments. I think we should fix the problem. It needs a policy fix, in my opinion, but I can live with this one.
Thank you, Matthew. Karen?
I think that's very well stated. This is a problem that has recurred. I've only been here a short time, but it's come up several times, and I appreciate Renard's calling it to attention when it comes up. And it's caused me to think back over some of those meetings. Gee, maybe maybe we should have done something. But now I think we're at this point where we need to come to grips with it ourselves. It's our problem that we don't know quite what to do
Mhm.
about it. And so for the history that Chris provided about this, the way the neighborhood is fine with it and recognizes all the work that's been done, I think I'd go ahead and say we approve this and express our thanks to Barry for bringing it to us.
Thank you, Karen. Sam?
I think between Commissioner Sturbaum and Richard Lewis, I think I concur with both of those gentlemen, and I'd support the COA.
All right, thank you, Sam. Kirsten?
No comment.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody else online have a comment? Anybody over here in the visiting us this evening? All right, great now. I concur with Matthew and Chris on this, and it's definitely something we will talk about and see if we can't get something.
Is there legal here?
Legal is, yes,
Right.
legal is online.
Yeah,
Could I?
I thought you were legal.
I'm not legal on planning.
he's trying.
My apologies.
Colleen's online.
I am here.
Colleen's
You
online.
look kind of.
Good.
I
Yeah,
know
could I
that,
get-
I'm sorry.
I don't know how to ask legal for. Legal, can we have your opinion on this? Is this a sanctionable issue? And if so, are there sanctions already on the books that we could exercise if we need to? Or if we felt the need to?
So it's my understanding of the ordinances that sanctions actually fall to the actual hand department and not the commission itself. I can double check that and look. It will just take me a few minutes to get back to you, so I won't be able to answer that for this meeting in particular.
Okay. We could then maybe potentially, we could potentially recommend something to hand who could choose to do it or not.
Yeah.
Correct. It would be at hand's discretion as to whether or not the actual sanctions would be imposed.
Yeah, Colleen's correct.
Right. If I may, I think Chris used the word a technicality, but almost everything in a bureaucracy is a technicality. The law itself is a technicality. Every single code regulation is a technicality, some more than others. So to describe this as a technicality is is the essence of the issue, you know. And we're in a position now that we are exercising a great deal of trust in that the homeowner, in good faith, only removed and disposed of items that were beyond reasonable or economic use.
Can I ask staff respond? Because as this is a hand issue and you wanted to bring up how
Sure.
violations and notice of violations function, I don't want to detract too much. We have to leave this room at 7 p.m. Just a reminder. There is another event, so I don't want to detract too much, but I do want to do justice to your concerns. We do have a process to deal with violations, and the first step is to send a notice of violation. In that notice, the process that I have inherited and have been working with as the preservationist policy is to give the person in violation two options: either to bring it to the Historic Preservation Commission to put it into compliance, or to restore the structure to what it was. If someone removed a window, they can put the window back. If somebody removed something, they could put it back as it was. If somebody built an additional structure, they can remove that additional structure. Sorry, Colleen, I'm gonna, okay. So that is the first step in a notice of violation. This is a case where it was headed in that direction, and before it became a notice of violation, I had a conversation with the petitioner who decided to bring this to put it into compliance. So the goal of hand is not to be punitive. This is something that can be changed in the future. This is a conversation we can have, but rather to put buildings into compliance. The goal is to save and to protect the buildings, even more than punishing. We have no carrots, we have sticks. And that is one of the biggest currencies I have right now in my tiny budget of currency is goodwill. So if I can bring people into compliance, you have the right to say we are not going to accept the COA, and then the next step would be a fine. So you have that capability right now, right here in this room, to say, petitioner, owner, we are not going to accept your certificate of appropriateness application. You have to put your building into compliance. You have to put it back exactly as it was, and you will be, and we will kick it back to the city, and then the city's hand department and the legal department will work with the fines. We have done that in the past, but that is why right now it seems like everything seems very soft and gentle. We're bringing it here. We're giving them a COA. We're not giving them a pat on the back. We're just trying to get the building into compliance. However, yes, it could very well go to fine. So it's a multi-step process, and oftentimes it can end up in court, and that is a last resort. So it's a stop. We have various stop gaps with always the priority being the building. Getting the building to a good place. It might not be ideal, and we can have that conversation later, and we can talk about it more tomorrow.
Thank you, Gloria. Okay,
May I add a short comment?
please.
Yeah, the columns that just got redone and replastered, they came out beautifully, and the stick worked without a fine. Once legal communicated with that petitioner, they got very serious. They hired people. They fixed the columns the way that historically they should have been fixed. So it worked. Nobody got fined, but that's why people come, because they could get in trouble if they don't comply and do what they need to do. So we want to be judicious and not arrest people for jaywalking, but when they rob the bank, that's a different story.
Thanks, Chris. Matthew, did you have
Yeah, with the interest of time here and the knowledge that this is a much longer conversation, plus I don't think this particular case is the one that I would, if I were going to make an example, I wouldn't make an example of this one. With all of that in mind, I move to approve COA 23-83.
Second.
All right, Dee, would you take the roll?
Marlene Newman,
Yes.
Daniel Schlegel,
Yes.
Sam DeSaller,
Yes.
Matthew Seddon,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
Bernard Croft.
No.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Very
Thank
nice.
you all. Thanks very much.
All right, have a good day. All right, let's move on to COA 23-84, 200 East Kirkwood Avenue. Is Tim with us? Yeah, there you are.
Yep.
Thanks, Tim. All right, Gloria.
Sam raised his hand.
Oh, did he? I didn't see that.
Sorry, Sam, did you have your hand raised during the conversation, or is this a new?
Oh, this is for this one. I just want to, before we get into it, talk about the meeting I had with the owner on last Friday.
We didn't hear you, Matt. We didn't hear you.
Sam, you're breaking up a little bit. We apologize.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
I just wanted to, that's about the current one, the COA 2384. I just wanted to talk about that meeting with the owner on Friday before we get to just after staff presentation, if that's possible.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Gloria.
Okay, so COA 23-84 for the 200 East Kirkwood Avenue, formerly known as the People's Bank. Or it's still the People's Bank at this moment, is it? Or
No,
No?
at this point, People's
State Bank?
moved out, vacated the
So it is
site.
formally the People's State Bank.
Formally, yeah.
Okay, so the petitioner Tim Cover is returning to us with an additional amendments. This is a case for a little bit of context. This came to us as a demolition delay a year ago.
About a year and a half.
And a half?
Yeah.
It's been a minute. The building was designated by Common Council, and ever since, Tim Cover has been working with a group of commissioners very diligently to bring various alternatives. And I believe that with the property owner, the programmatic use of the building has had some changes. There's also been some financial changes. There's been a lot of tweaks. So this has been quite the experience. And so this is an additional, I believe, from staff, I can just say, after having looked at these plans, that the main core concepts have remained. As in the historic building is going to have a significant addition with some setbacks and creative use of materials so that the new structure can harmonize as much as possible with the historic one, and maximizing space without detracting. It's actually a pretty complicated thing that the petitioner is bringing to us. There's a very long laundry list with which I think if you would like to, I can let you talk a bit
Sure.
more about the changes that you are proposing, because there is an extensive list of small changes here, there, and everywhere. But when you look at it, the core of the structure and the proposal is still there, but a lot of things have been streamlined, tweaked, and I believe there's an additional floor is the biggest change that's being proposed. So with that said, staff does recommend approval of COA 23-84. I'm just gonna run through, I'll let Tim Cover go through all of the requested edits, but I'm just gonna showcase some of the drawings here pretty quickly. We don't really work too much with the interior, but it's sometimes good to have the context of where things are located. I just also wanted to show you how the different floors and the additional story that's being proposed has additional, it's stacked and setback in a way that, the setbacks actually help, even though this lot is pretty, it's a pretty tight lot, I would say, with a lot going on it. So here are some renderings. So the next few drawings are just gonna be renderings. And you'll see subtle changes with the signage. I think the biggest change might be or not the biggest, but one of the more notable changes of something that the commission was concerned about is the large marquee awning coming out on the side. And there's also some, I think, significant changes to the back. I feel like you did something to the back that it looks extra elegant right now, but that's just my opinion as staff. You can take it or leave it. So yeah, so this is how the back looks like now, where it's very simple, but also in staff's opinion, very elegant. And with that, I will leave it to the architect, Tim Cover.
Okay. Well, thank you. Tim Cover with Studio 3 Design. It's, as Gloria mentioned, it's been probably a year and a half or so since we started this journey. It's been a good one. I think we've all worked together well to find a way to save the bank formerly known as People's Bank. And you know, in doing so, there have been a lot of recommendations made in working with staff. And throughout that process, I believe you've seen that we have implemented all of those recommendations as we've gone along. And so Gloria mentioned there was several little items. Those were all based on our last meeting about a month ago, recommendations that were made. And before I go on, Gloria, it's been a privilege working with you. Sorry to see you're going to leave this forum. So, but the items that were from the last go around, and then I'll talk about the 5th floor that we're looking at. The first was we talked about the railing at the front of the building, and you can kind of see it if you look at the little blue car. There's just a low rail that outlines the seating area, and the recommendations had been to really simplify that. It's not a guardrail, it's not trying to hold anybody in, it's just defining the space. And we went through and basically took it down to a 2 horizontal rail setup with the vertical pickets. I was maybe skeptical a little when I first started, but I would tell you I like it. It's simplified. It kind of goes along with just the streamlined look of the building. So that was one step. The canopy, probably this is kind of an odd view of it, but if you recall, it was a fabric canopy, arched in shape, much more of a temporary kind of canopy look. And we talked about trying to pick more up on the elements of the canopies on the building, the front canopy that cantilevers out. This is much too long to cantilever, but what we did is kind of simplified the profile. We went to a more basically a permanent structure, which I talked with the Board of Public Works on, that we'd be able to get that approval. And kind of followed the profile, kind of the simple metal profile of the front canopy to be similar but not imitate it or copy it. And then subtle details, the canopy cantilevers out from the last post about 4 feet. And that was really just in recognition of the fact that the other canopies on the building are cantilevered members. So again, a very simple, elegant canopy that is now part of the overall building and a permanent element. The other items that we had discussed, the windows on Washington Street, I'll stand up and point. This grouping here, there's 10 windows. 6 of them were our original windows. 4 at the bottom were replaced, I want to say sometime in the 80s with aluminum storefront. We proposed that basically we're going to change all 10 windows, but we're looking at Hope historic windows to replicate what is there, but instead of having a single pane 1/8-inch glazing, we'll get the benefit of both the energy efficiency and sound efficient transition.
I'm sorry.
Kind of lost our picture there, but we'll be able to basically have the same look and sensitivity of the original building. We talked about 6. We want to go ahead and get rid of the ones that were changed to storefront and make all 10 look like the original historic windows. So in addition to that, on the front of the building, we talked about changing the curtain.
I have no idea, pardon me.
No
Sorry.
problem.
Trying to get you to
This
not.
has never happened
Yeah,
before.
I'm just gonna, I think it's the monitor, maybe, Gloria? No?
Yeah, sure.
Gabriel, do you know?
No, I have no idea, but I saw the remote and I thought.
Well, the other one is, it doesn't, I mean, you guys, we talked about the storefront on the front of the building, replacing that with, again, a energy efficient storefront system that's insulated. There's going to be a 1/4-inch profile difference between what was originally there and what is there today, but all the mullions, the verticals, horizontals, all back the way they were. On the back of the building, the south side, Gloria, you might kind of, if I could get you to go to the south elevation.
Yes, give me 1 second.
Oh, no problem. And you can see it partially here, but
Wait, I'll get you a better one.
there you go. Chris, I know you had talked about or suggested kind of carrying the shadow box element around the building, picking up again with the windows above and doing that setback. Just again, a little more breaking up the mass on the alley side of the building. And then as Gloria mentioned, we also changed the material from a lap siding on the south and on, you'll see it again on kind of the northeast corner of the building. We changed that to a panelized system. It would still be a fiber cement system set in the same reveals as the metal panel that's on the Washington and Kirkwood elevations. We also simplified the color. So it was kind of two-tone. You had a lot of strong horizontals, the trim painted differently than the backup material. This would be panels with recessed reveals. On the true east elevation, which is totally hidden by the graduate, again, we just changed, and you can kind of see it here, but we changed out the paint colors just to blend it all together and really simplify and clean it up so that all the lines are, I guess, just the overall building is simpler in the representation. I think that touches on all of the items we talked about at the last meeting. The next item was the addition of the 5th level on this building. And with that, we have in this past month, we had a lot of different exciting things, I would say, occur. One, we've been developing this as a boutique hotel. It is a one and done for Bloomington, Indiana on Kirkwood Avenue. But we admittedly were not, from a functional standpoint, hotel experts. And so we've gone and the owner engaged a national boutique hotel consultant out of Chicago to help us educate us on what it takes to make this project successful. And a lot of what that started out here was that we basically cleared out the first level. Instead of trying to put rooms in the first level on the front and the historic building, we've opened all of that up to create nicer, grander lobby space, restaurant, kitchen, seating, the kind of, I'll say both bagel bar maybe, just different options within there. We also went back and they said, you got to have 2 elevators. And so we took a good chunk of the space out of the new part of the building and added in 2 elevators for the structure, as well as larger elevator lobby, check-in area as well, part of that. Consequently, we also looked at adding rooms. So we took what was on 1 and we put it on 5. The important thing with all of this is that we started the discussion on the 5th floor with the simple fact that our whole goal was to maintain the street presence of the historic building at Kirkwood and Washington. That's the prime view, and we did that with the 4-story by peeling back the 4th floor. So with this, we started out day 1 with peeling back the 5th floor even further. We had the opportunity to meet with Sam and get his input and some recommendations that we ultimately included here, Sam. on keeping it simple. And so, Gloria, if possible, we can look at, I'll just go back to the corner or the front, but you can see, yeah, go one, whoop.
Is this okay?
Let's go, yeah, let's hold at the corner for the moment. When you're looking at the building from street level, the historic building still remains the upfront focus. Third floor steps back, fourth floor peels back. We rotated on the fourth floor, subtle difference, but we rotated the fourth floor balcony or outdoor area to step it back further so it read a little deeper from the corner, and then took the fourth floor and fifth floor and created 2 more outdoor areas, again overlooking Washington and Kirkwood, but stepping that mass back even further. Along with all of that, again, we just carried the same architecture of the building, keeping the form simple roof line, same colors, same materials going up. So with that, I hope you'll agree that, you know, the journey we've taken together on this has continued to evolve, but it has evolved in a very positive way. And so hopefully, I hate to say goodbye, but I hope this is the last meeting.
No, we want you back.
Well, you know, I was gonna say, I've been here so much, you might think that I'm one of the members.
We could arrange that. Careful way.
No, but I'd like to just open it up to questions.
Sorry, thank you. Sam, did you have something you wanted to add before we moved on to questions?
I actually think Mr. covered, covered most of what I wanted to talk about. You know, that our initial discussions, me, Marlene, and Duncan, were all about trying to make the original building more at the forefront and have the building behind it recede. So keeping it simple and keeping it, you know, in tune with a minimal palette of design elements. And I think that this iteration actually does that fairly well. It still peels back. It doesn't, for me, it doesn't, you know, impinge on the hotel any more than the version with one less story did. And it's still like a, you know, shorter than the Graduate. So in that sense, it helps to mitigate even that between the taller building, the Graduate building next door, than the previous iteration. So I think that's all I want to say at this point. Thanks.
All right, Sam. Okay, let's do our questions. Bernard. Daniel. Chris.
No question.
Marlene.
I think it's really great, but I do have just one question, which is the doors that go out to the decks.
Yes.
Okay, they're all swinging in, but they also swing into the. I think they take up too much.
The graphic is one step behind.
Okay.
We have those swinging out.
Okay,
So we're not getting into egress.
Right, that's what I was getting at.
And the second is, honestly, they work so much better swinging out as far as wind and rain, trying to push its way into a building.
Yep. So that was my only question. They seem to need to be swinging out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Matthew? Karen?
Yes, I have a question. How much lower than the Graduate is this?
So Graduate is 6 stories, we're 5. They top out at around 80 feet, and we're at roughly 67 to 68.
Okay.
Okay, and the previous version would have.
1 story less.
1 story less, so.
Call it
into
12 feet.
Yeah.
Very good. Any questions? Okay, and Sam, questions?
No questions.
Kirsten, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Does anybody online have any questions?
If anybody online has any questions, please
Raise your hand.
use the raise hand feature.
All right. Okay, let's move on to comments. Bernard?
Could you please hurry up and build this thing before somebody spots something and
Is there a public comment?
We are anxious to start construction.
Build
We
it,
do all
please.
comments.
Yes. Thank you. That's
All
my
right.
comment.
Daniel?
No comments.
Chris?
Yeah, I remember thinking the Graduate was too tall, and this worked better with one less story, but the Graduate's already taller, and we want them to not go out of business, and they've done a nice job with this, so I suggest we support this.
Thank you, Chris. Marlene?
Well, having seen it from the beginning to now, I really like the simplification, the change in materials, and I actually like it better with the extra floor because it's sort of that corner in the back, it accentuates it by having that. So, and it steps back enough so that I don't think from the street you're ever gonna be aware of it from the Washington. So, I like it. I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
And it was a fun process.
Thank you, Marlene. And Matthew?
No, I've enjoyed watching this evolve, and I can totally support this change, so thank you.
Karen?
I think the step backs make it work. I mean, the thought of a 5-story building next to a 6-story building is kind of breathtaking, but I think we've done a nice job.
All right, thank you, Karen. Any comments? No? Okay. Sam, any comments?
Oh, just.
Did you ask
so-
Kirsten?
Yeah, I'm getting there. I just asked Sam. And then,
I had a comment. Is now a good time or?
okay. Let me get Sam.
Perfect.
Good.
Thanks.
Sam?
I just want to say, I really appreciate it. This is one of just a handful of projects where the back and forth between the commission and the petitioner has radically changed the building. And I think for the better. It's been a lot of fun. I really appreciate all the work that the petitioner has done to get it to where it is. And I really like where it's turned out. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Sam. Kirsten?
Yeah, I really hate how tall downtown Bloomington has gotten, but that being said, like you said, it's already shorter than the Graduate, and I really like the setbacks. I think it's less imposing than a lot of other tall buildings that are already there, so.
Thank you. All right. Your turn.
Yeah, so I'm Gabriel Holbrown, zoning planner in the Planning and Transportation Department. I just wanted to point out that the previous design for this, the previous 4-story design, received a variance for the height. The height limit here normally is 3 stories, maximum 40 feet. So it has already received a variance. This, with the additional story, would only be allowed by a variance. So HBC can take that as information and do with it what you want, but a condition, certificate of appropriateness would not be the final discretionary approval necessary for this design.
But we can make a recommendation.
If you'd like to make a recommendation, this would be a perfect time to do that, yes.
Good enough. Thanks, Gabriel.
So did the
Okay.
Graduate have?
What happened, excuse me, I'm the petitioner. What happened the first time around when it was just 4 stories?
It received a variance. The variance was granted.
Okay. So, I'm trying to understand your point.
My point is that another variance will be necessary.
We understand that.
I cannot predict at this time whether it would be granted or not.
And you couldn't have predicted it before?
For the first variance?
Right.
Before that happened?
Right.
No, because it's up to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Right.
Of course, yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
I just want to clarify.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
If I may, I'd
Yes,
love
Jim.
to have you all come to the BZA and speak in favor of the building.
Will you provide snacks?
I'll have pizza and.
Come on.
All right.
Do we have any other comments from our online folks? Okay. You know, I like this project. This is my comment. I like this project. I like how it's set back now. I wasn't here at the meeting when you guys presented this, but I remember when you came back to us, when you first came to us, it was going to be all apartments.
Yep.
I think this is a much better plan for this location than what you came with us the first time. I really like this project. So that's my comments. We need a motion to approve.
I move that we approve this COA. Oh.
But according to what he said, is this the cart before the horse?
No, they need us to approve. They have to do
I would-
everything
But if it's fine to give them a variance,
then they'll be back.
Yeah, then you go back up this.
I wouldn't describe it as cart before the horse, it's more like the donkey walking next to the sheep. Like, you both gotta get there.
Yeah, Sam raised his hand.
Yes, get it.
I would just say that if the commissioner made the motion to, or accept a friendly amendment, that we would also support the height variance.
Okay, do you want to make that motion for us, Sam?
Sure. Well, I think there's a motion on the table.
I move that we approve COA 23-84 and support the application for a height variance.
Okay, very good. And a second, Matthew?
No, actually, Daniel got it the first. He got it first.
So Dee,
First, second.
will you take the roll, please?
Marlene Newman,
yes.
Daniel Schlegel,
Yes.
Sam DeSaller,
Yes.
Matthew Seddon,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
Bernard Cross.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
It's
you,
been a
Tim.
great experience.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody. Really
Really
appreciate
appreciate
all
it.
your recommendations in the past.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how hard Tim and other people have worked on it. The firm we hired, we want to deliver the best product from Bloomington. This is not a chain. I grew up here. I really want to deliver a nice product to our city so we can all be proud of it. And hopefully Mr. Sturbaum will be able to consider this as a pretty duckling in the future. But really, thank you very much for all your help. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. All right. Let's move on to demolition delay, DD 2311. Gloria?
Demolition delay 22-11 for 615 North Lincoln Street. The petitioner, Morton Rubin, is requesting full demolition of the building. So the site consists of the main house, a detached garage, and an ashlar stone retaining wall. The sidewalk in front of the property is covered in WPA limestone with the square and octagonal pattern found throughout Bloomington. According to the Bloomington City Book of 1920, the owners of the property were Glenn A. and Lucille Young. Glenn Young worked as a helper at the Showers Brother Company throughout his life. They owned the property until 1977 when they sold it. The property is located in the Cottage Grove study area. That's something that I would definitely want to talk about tomorrow with all of you during the commissioners' retreat. The building has been altered over time. However, it can be restored and would be already is contributing to a greater historical context, not just through its design, but through the entire site. It does have its detached garage. It does have other components to it. However, on its own, staff could not find enough information to substantiate a designation. So staff with like a heavy heart does recommend release of the demo delay 23-11. So here's a more recent image with where you can see the detached garage. You can see the front of the building. If you were to remove that balcony or that second story balcony, the building would look pretty much as it did when it was built. I couldn't find a lot of information about its building style. It has a gambrel roof, but has 2 front doors, so it could be a combination of different things. Has some craftsman, something it may have been modified at some time. But it does have a lot of the prototypical elements of Bloomington House with a big limestone presence. And so I did want to ask staff, I think that the petitioner is on the phone with us. I don't know if he can, if I can invite him to speak, but yes, I can. If he wanted to talk a little bit more about the scale of the, like, what would happen to the sidewalk and the retaining wall, just out of curiosity. But that's kind of, yeah, where I'm at, and with that, staff concludes its presentation.
All right, thank you. Is the petitioner here with us?
Um,
Yes, there he is. Do you have any additional comments?
I don't know how
Isn't it
to
the-
unmute the petitioner. Hi, Morton, can you?
Hi.
Yeah, we can hear
Hi, I'm Mort Rubin.
you. We can hear
Hey,
you.
this is Mort Rubin. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, I appreciate, Gloria, all the research you've done on that, and be here, happy to answer any questions, but we're hoping you could release it if that's consistent with your thoughts on it, and if not, I'll be happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Okay. Questions, Bernard?
Maybe I missed it. Why is the building coming down?
That, in the demolition delay, we cannot
Is it structural?
speculate on the future project.
No, I wasn't asking what's gonna go there. I was just asking, is it unsound? Is it?
Mort, would you be able to respond to that?
Can you say that again? I'm sorry, it cut out.
I'm just curious as to why you want to demolish the building.
Well, I'd like to build something consistent with the way it's laid out right now, but I'd like to add some more units and make it needs some work. The current building in its current format, pretty significant work, and I thought it would be the highest and best use to start again and build something that would meet with the city's current requirements and have nicer units on that same property.
Okay,
It's hard to say.
thank you.
Daniel?
Bernard asked my question, so I'm done.
Chris?
No question.
Marlene?
I do have a question, but it'll be a quick story. It's posed in a quick story. I was on the zoning board of appeal with your dad, and there were some buildings that the owner wanted to transform them dramatically. They were Victorian houses. There were 3 of them, and it turned out that they were allowed to have more units by keeping the historic building than doing the changes, which would have been change the roof pitch from a higher pitch to a lower pitch, change the windows from the elegant long proportions to the short. It just totally transformed the building. And so I'm wondering, because the building is really kind of has a nice character. It seems to be in pretty good, condition. Maybe, not having seen the building, I can't really say for sure, but is there some way that you could add to the back and use the existing footprint to add the number of units that the owner might want, but yet maintain the street facade and the way that it fits in with the neighborhood? Because I can understand you could probably put a 3-story building there and have God knows what, but the scale of it would be not in. So I was wondering if that had been looked at all, because I like the way that the facade looks, I'm sorry.
Did you hear that, Morton?
Well, I did, and I don't know if Tim is still there or he left. Is Tim still there by any chance?
He left.
Okay, I've had Tim actually look at this for me, and my understanding is that that wouldn't be feasible.
Okay. All right, thank you, Morton. Matthew, question?
No questions.
Karen? I haven't got any questions here. Merle, oh, Sam? I'm sorry, yes, Sam? Questions?
If you, I just one other question. Are you familiar with BRI?
Morton, did you hear that?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that's referring to, so I would say I am not.
If you have any pieces, parts of this building that you end up not using for whatever reason, we have a local nonprofit that is very good at doing rehabs. And if there's any original material in the house that you are planning to reuse, then they can. So get in touch with them before you speak to the landfill. That's
I would be happy to do that. It's called BRI.
Yeah, Bloomington Restorations Incorporated.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that.
All right. Okay, so what's on our table here is that we have to either approve the demolition.
We have comments.
Did you have Christine?
No, I didn't ask Kristen. I was just going to clarify what our
Gotcha.
next step would be. And I'm sorry, Kirsten?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. We can do comments.
Yeah.
All right. Renard?
I was sorry to see it go. I mean, it looks to be in pretty good nick. But we're faced with what, two choices, either
Exactly.
release or
Designated.
designate, and we can't designate
Right.
based on what I read, so
Yeah,
progress.
exactly. Daniel?
Yeah, same. I hate to see this thing go. I mean, I think it's better than anything that could be built for the character of the neighborhood, but if we can't designate. And did he explain about the WPA stuff that Gloria?
Morton, what are you planning to doing with the retaining wall and the WPA and the sidewalk, the stone sidewalk?
Well, we would intend on maintaining that.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Chris?
Yeah. Usually when we let one of these go, I look around the surrounding neighborhood and think, oh, it's strayed from the herd, it's lost, but this is an intact neighborhood. And there is a third option. And the third option is to continue this and to consider a smaller Cottage Grove district. Because while this may not qualify by itself, the district, if you look down the street, it's intact. And what we do with this is a precedent to this neighborhood. And, you know, it could be a 1 block, it could be a 2 block district, but it is worthy of saving, and it is not negative. I mean, it's easier to smash it over and build something cheap, but we've seen many of these where the facade stays, there's a second building in the back, there's an addition of 2 stories that adds things, so, you know, maybe the numbers didn't work as well, but that it won't work is not true. And I suggest that we take more time with this, because that's why it's a study district, because it's worthy of consideration of local designation. And then we would be in the condition where we just were with the building that we said we don't want to tear down. And it's getting restored. And it gets us out of this, oh, we can't, it's either give it up or, you know. So I suggest that we consider delaying this to another meeting and discussing the possibilities.
All right. Chris? Marlene?
Well, yeah, I would agree with Chris. I think that it's kind of an adaptive reuse project, and it's going to be an income producing project. So they could look at it from a tax credit point of view, which is, I think, used to be 40% of the renovations of the existing historic building. Okay, so that might help the project. And it would be cool to listen or see some, I know we can't ask for this, but at least to see some sketch plans of what a project might look like on this site that would allow extra units. I mean, because that's kind of what happened to those Victorian buildings on, what's the?
College, I think.
No, it wasn't College, but you know, where the, what's it called? No, it's around the corner from, it's that rounded front, what?
Yeah, Marlene, I just want to point out, we're going to probably need to steer clear of seeing what would be in place of this unless you're going to designate. If you were going to create a new district, we just have to be careful statutorily with evaluating what would replace the historic buildings. So I would urge the commission, I would urge some caution of the commission to go down that route.
So he mentioned that he had talked to Tim, who's an architect, right?
He did, and I think he, in mentioning and answering Renard's question, I believe, about was there an attempt to save it or to keep it. I just, I didn't want to cut off your commentary. I just wanted to make sure, just urge some caution of the commission that evaluating a future project in place of the historic structure is a little bit of a.
Oh, I'm not talking,
Okay.
So what I'm saying is Tim's the guy who just did the previous one, right? And he did an outstanding job of working with the existing and making transformations and keeping the building.
Yeah.
And working with the commission and the architects on the commission in some sort of back and forth way. It produced probably a better project than would have happened had that not happened, or had he not been, or had we all not wanted to go in one particular direction, which was to save the building and to make this work. And so if the building were in shambles, I would say, okay, forget it, but it's really not. I mean, you're the...
And neither is the neighborhood.
And neither is the neighborhood. And so once you start to, it's like your teeth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you start to take out one tooth and another tooth, and then another tooth comes out, and then you don't have a neighborhood anymore. You don't have the teeth are gone, so that's, I think, true.
January
So, it would be.
I actually would like to, if possible, get a little clarification on something, on Chris's proposal to push it to the next meeting and consider designating a district. I can't quite remember how all of that works timing-wise and things like that. Because designating a district is going to require time, right? It's going to require talking to the neighbors. It's going to require that sort of thing. We can't just do it by fiat.
Correct.
And I believe that even goes, do we take it to the National Register on top of it? I can't remember. But it would be internally. We can't. And so would we be able to pull it off?
It's a good question, because this has a timeline.
Right.
But then, if we're considering something larger, that's a technical question.
Yeah.
Does it then kick into that later timeline?
Yeah.
So, January, so two things. 90 days is January 21st if you extend it by 120 days, which is the max.
Which will be required by the hand director to extend it 30 days.
Yes. That would be February 20th, and that could be done now.
What's that?
That extension could be done now if it were going to happen. But and the moment that it is like nominated for historic designation, there is that the interim protection that is placed on it. So that time, the interim protection is to begin working on the designation. It doesn't have to be. It has to be pretty fast, but it doesn't have to be immediate. So there is a little bit of wiggle room. The reason that the demolition delay can be extended up to 120 days maximum, as a full maximum, is to allow for that additional time to do the research and compile the data and get everything together. So January 21st is the end of the 90 days. Does that help?
Yes, that does. So, yeah, we could kick it and then decide to pursue designation of the district, and then there'd be a hold on it while we pursued that designation for some reasonable amount of time, if I understand you
So
correctly.
then we would designate the house at that point after we do the district. Or-
I believe that the question is to do a small multi-building district, so not just this house, but
Right.
to do a survey or use the, like a visual survey of going to the site, documenting the buildings, using the research we have, compiling, creating a map, and creating a staff report, and presenting that and getting it on track for nomination.
And some of that's done since it's a study area, I think.
Some of it has been done. I would have to look at the interim report from 2004 to see just how much information the interim report does have some written information about each of the study areas. So that is an option.
Okay. All right, very good. Sam?
Yeah, I just had a question. If, regardless of what we would like to see done here, doesn't both this property owner and the other property owners in the proposed district have to vote to approve this district as part of this process?
I'm gonna pull up the information I have. That requires that I actually go into our manual. So traditionally, well, hold up. Let me see what Title 8 says. That's gonna be just more direct. Okay. Oof, Title 8. Okay, initiating a Title 8.0, 8.010, establishment of historic districts and conservation districts. A, initiating a historic district recommendation. All recommendations for establishment of a historic district shall be in the form of a written report and must be based on the criteria outlined in this title. A recommendation for establishing a historic district may be initiated by either of the following two sources. Number one, based on its survey, the commission may draw and submit historic district maps for common council approval. And two, owners of property in fee simple wishing to establish a historic district which includes their property may petition the commission to consider drawing and submitting a map of such a district to the common council for its approval. The commission may establish in its rules criteria to be met before it considers a petition. The commission shall determine its recommendation within 90 days of receipt of a petition.
So it sounds like just common council.
And so I'm looking at how the map is established. I'm gonna pull up so it does say that the commission determines the parameters, so the next thing I'm gonna pull up is the commissioner's manual. And let's see if that has some additional literature and resources. Bear with me, thank you for your patience. Job guidelines and checklists. Let me see if that's here. Commissioner's manual. The most recent edition is from 2022. Gonna pull that up. If it opens. See if that has Okay. Responsibility of the profession, to the community. What am I looking at? Sorry. These apps just want to keep opening stuff. So, Article 5 of the Commissioner's Manual, Historic Designation. The Commission may initiate or accept by petition of owners in fee simple a request for designation. The Commission shall prepare a map based upon a survey conducted or adopted by the Commission, which documents historic properties within the corporate limits of the City of Bloomington. The Commission may divide the district into secondary and primary areas. The Commission shall classify all buildings and structures as between outstanding and non-contributing. A report shall accompany all petitions to the Common Council for designation. Then Part B is about the Conservation District. C, a public hearing shall be held by the Commission to allow for public comments. Such Commission comment may be held separately or in conjunction with a Commission meeting where the action of the district is to occur. Other meetings involving the residents and owners and Common Council members may be held to educate and publicize the proposed district. So, Sam, what it seems to me is that it has been customary for the commission to, the commission to work with the communities in the process of the historic districts, and hosting between 1 and 3 meetings with community members. And then in some of them, votes have been held just to get a sense of what community support there might be for those. But it has been something that's customary that the commission allows for in its bylaws. But I do believe there is flexibility for the commission to determine its next step regarding this type of scenario.
All right, thank you, Gloria. Okay, any more questions, Sam? All right, so let's move along. We need a motion. Yes.
Kirsten?
Yeah, Kirsten.
And me too.
No, I'm okay, thank you.
That's and Karen.
Yeah, I think you brought up the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just want to add, I think it's a perfect candidate for exploring this option. And that's what, a continuance is all about. And it may be that we end up releasing it, but we shouldn't feel the pressure right now of the, backing down from it, because we're reluctant, clearly, to approve demolition of this house.
All right, thank you, Karen. Okay. So, hearing that said, we need a motion.
I moved it. How do we phrase it? We continue, did you know? Chris, maybe.
I think.
I would like to move to
Chris to make this
delay
motion.
it
No, I
and
can't make
pursue
a
the
motion.
option.
Oh,
However
you're
we
not
would
that.
phrase that.
I move that we continue this demolition delay until the next meeting.
All right, and in the interim, should we ask our program
Yes.
manager to develop a map for us?
Program manager is going to request commissioners to commission subcommittee or commissioners to help out with said process,
Okay.
as staff is somewhat beyond overwhelmed at this moment.
No,
Thank you.
Okay. Do we get a second?
Second.
Excellent. Steve?
Marlene Newman,
Yes.
Daniel Slagle,
Yes.
Sam DeSaller,
Just to clarify, this is just continuing it to the next meeting, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Matthew Seddon,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yeah.
Bernard Cross.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thanks, Steve. All right, so we need to get a subcommittee set up to help with the map.
Yes.
Okay.
We do have a guideline subcommittee. I think Renard, it's you and Sam, but I don't think we have like Historic District Nomination Subcommittee right now. So if anybody wants to,
Sam's got his hand up.
well, I think he was asking a question.
Oh.
Sam, you were asking a question, or you wanted to comment something, and I think.
Yeah, I didn't, yeah, I just didn't think we actually got around to comments on the last, DOA.
We did.
Oh, okay, I thought you had asked for questions, my apologies.
I think I confused things by asking a question during the comment period, simply because I needed some clarification, but it was the comment period.
Okay. Are you okay, Sam?
Oh, I'm fine.
Okay.
Can we
So-
work on this a little bit tomorrow?
I'm sorry, Marlene.
Can we work on this map a little bit tomorrow?
We can talk about it.
Because that, I mean, that way everybody would get experience with doing this, wouldn't be so, you know.
It is one of the topics that we're bringing up,
So why don't we
precisely
have
this type of
why don't we,
district.
why don't we do a, what do they call it, a case study, and this would be the case.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. All right. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Very good. Thank you.
If you bring stuff, we'll do it. That's what I'm saying. If you bring it, we'll do it.
Okay. All right, let's move on to new business, Lower Cascades Park nomination staff report. Very good.
Okay, so, the commission had requested the staff prepare a report for, report for, a potential nomination for the Lower Cascades. Before I continue, I just wanted to, point out the sheer amount of work that Chris Durbaum has done throughout this process. He has been invaluable in doing research and sitting down and working with maps, the idea of going back and forth with maps and looking up the previous survey that had been done with the National Register of Historic Places. I also wanted to comment that the information being brought today is a staff report with a proposed map and a proposed survey list for the Historic Preservation Commission to look at and to decide if they want to push forward with this or edit it or alter it. The Cascades Park is a very large park. It's made up of 3 parts, the Upper Cascades, the Lower Cascades, and the golf course. We are currently looking at the Lower Cascades as a historic district in and of itself. However, the commission can decide to expand that, contract that, change the map. We are currently using the Parks and Rec map as it already exists as a boundary proposal, mainly because it's a clean boundary that has already been determined. As you all know, there are 5, 6, 7. There are 10 criteria for local historic designation that are based on the federal criteria throughout the United States, and these are enshrined in our Title 8 of the city ordinances. Any site or building just requires one of these to really already be eligible. We believe, staff believes, and working with Chris, that it has at least, it pings at least 3 of these criteria very, very well for many reasons, and I will go into those reasons a little bit more. Before I do move forward, today we are not going to send this to Common Council today. Today we're looking at this draft and determining whether this draft is good so that we can schedule a formal hearing for our next Historic Preservation Commission meeting on December 14th. That hearing will require additional 10-day notice in the newspaper and letters to be sent out to the owner and to all of the neighbors surrounding the owner. So there's an additional process that needs to happen before this goes to Common Council. However, this is the moment, this is the time for all of you to spot the typos, to add additional documentation that you would like, or to change the boundaries. You know, this is the time where it's more moldy, a little bit more elastic and plastic, and to have additional conversations on what this district means. I have just less than half an hour to do this because we will be kicked out of here at 7. I must continue reminding all of us, including myself. So the first criteria has significant character, interest, or value as part of the development, heritage, or cultural characteristics of the city, state, or nation, or is associated with a person who played a significant role in local, state, or national history. So I will go into detail regarding each of these. Exemplifies the cultural, political, economic, social, or, and I would say, and historic heritage of the community. And finally, under architectural, exemplifies the built environment of an era of history characterized by distinctive architectural style. So for a little bit of background, the district's hydrology. So these I quoted heavily from the National Register of Historic Places nomination. So the site is currently in process of, through the nomination process with the National Park Service and the State Historic Preservation Office. The process has been delayed due to COVID, and we don't know how long before we find out the results of said nomination. However, through a Section 106 process with the Corps of Engineers, it was found that the site was worthy of nomination for multiple reasons. So it feels like I am detracting, but I'm actually trying to add a little bit more historical context. So the Cascades is park. The Lower Cascades Park is geographically the area that is lined up with the Old State Road 37 and the Griffey Creek on the bottom. So it's sort of on the bottom. I think everybody here knows the site well. I don't have to go into great detail, but it has natural geographic beauty of the fauna and the flora. It has also been part of the Bloomington parks since 1924, so it will be 100 years it will celebrate its centenary as a park next year. That's coming up very quickly. So there's a lot of water, natural features through the creek with the namesake, the Cascades. But it also contains, because of these natural features, combined with a road whose history, we don't know how far back this road goes, but it is very old. And in the 19teens, it was actually incorporated into what was known at the time as the Dixie Highway, which was a network of roads that connected Chicago and the Midwest with Florida. And the purpose of that was so that new car owners could explore different parts of the United States and have road trips. So it's part of the invention of this very American phenomena of the road trip, with the journey being as important as the destination. And passing through this park, there was that idea of the park being a destination and a part of the journey destination, part of that process of stopping in places and enjoying those places. In the 1930s, with the Great Depression, a lot of WPA, Works Progress Administration money from the Franklin Delano Roosevelt administration came into Bloomington and was used to build the different architectural elements and site and engineering elements we will be seeing that are found throughout the park, not just in the Lower Cascades, but in the Upper Cascades as well. And those incorporate the benches and tables that are shown here. Part of the ethos of this WPA was to use federal money locally to provide local work with local resources. And one of Bloomington's greatest local resources was its limestone, its Indiana limestone, which is known throughout the United States. And so I wanted to show you, this is the delineation of the map as it is now. What you see in green, that I call it the teddy bear, it's like a bear-like shape, the head at the top. is the Cascades entirety of the park, and then to the right or to the east is the Griffey Lake Park that kind of joins into it. So there are two great natural parks in northern Bloomington that connect with each other. So we're looking at the part that's highlighted in that light teal map, specifically today. And I went ahead and used the work that was done by Professors Christopher Bass and J.P. Hall. They are two architectural historians that were contracted by the Parks and Recreation Department for their Section 106 work. They did a Hall survey, Historic American Landscape Survey, and then they performed the National Register of Historic Places nomination. So most of the data that I'm using is actually from their hard work. They went ahead and also did a survey and determined the following structures to be contributing, including a bridge, the Monroe County Bridge, built in 1926, 4 pedestrian bridges, 24 limestone, I think it's 24 to 29 limestone picnic tables. I need to determine like how many of them are in the lower versus upper Cascades. There's a little bit of finagling there. A wishing well, drinking fountain, waterfall shelter, the well house, limestone benches, concrete pedestrian bridge, and the Cascades Park bathhouse. So the Sycamore shelter. Non-contributing, the new pedestrian bridge that is found there, and some playgrounds that were built between the 1980s and the early aughts. So this is a park that has had continual use. It has been researched, it has been written about over and over again throughout the years. So just to go into a tiny bit more detail, has significant character, interest, or value as part of the development, heritage, or cultural characteristic of the city, state, or nation, or is associated with a person. So the natural geographic beauty of the area led to the creation of the Cascades Park in 1924. So this property had been purchased a few years earlier. You know, there is a limestone quarry just south of it, right south of it. There was a big concern that that quarry was going to expand and purchase this property. And so so preservation efforts, tale as old as time. The creation of this park was one of Bloomington's, you could call it OG preservation efforts in the era of parks, both national parks and smaller parks in the United States. So it was an era of a lot of, this was a movement. James Kaufman wrote his thesis at Ball State University titled Cascades Park, a Preservation and Recreation Development Plan for Bloomington. So this is a quote, the original intent was to preserve a naturally beautiful site. And this master's thesis written in the 80s talked about a moment of sort of abandonment and loneliness in the park. There was a concern that it was going downhill and that there was crime. And so his thesis was kind of his own proposal of how to develop it. But in preparing that thesis, he did highlight and did a lot of research on the park's background. So this is a park that's been in people's minds for a long time. Exemplifies the cultural, political, economic, social, or I would say again, and historic heritage of the community. So this is a space that has been enjoyed by the community, by community members and visitors alike for over 100 years. Before it was a park, there were newspaper articles about students taking a hike from IU students going to have picnics at this park. There have been multiple projects that have come and gone. There was even like a hotel that had kind of an ill reputation for a lot of parties in the 1920s where the co-eds were told not to go by IU. So there was some salacious scandals in an era. I love that these collections of photographs have been donated to the Monroe County History Center, and they just record the memories of different generations of people just enjoying this park. And these photos, I believe, are from before the WPA project. In 1997, BRI News, so the Bloomington Restorations Inc. newsletter, published an article that provided some of the history of the Cascades Park. In 1921, and that's where I got the information that in 1921 there was the risk of a quarry expansion. So they quoted the beauty spot of the southern part of the state. And finally, this site does exemplify an era of history characterized by a very distinctive architectural style. In this case, it is a WPA style that was inspired by the National Park Service style. So I added here one of the rustic, the parkitecture, rustic style plates, images that the National Park Service published so that people could use this it is its namesake. It says it's rustic. It's rustic. Use the materials in and around the land so that the architecture elegantly kind of starts disappearing into the landscape in a way. And as you can see, some of the shelters look very, very much like the floor plans that the National Park Service was promoting to be used beyond their own sites. And so I wanted to wrap up by just showing some of these images. Again, these images are courtesy of the architects, the architectural historians that did this research for the net. So this is part of the National Register of Historic Places nomination with some of the different buildings that exist. So the majority of the buildings that were built in the 1930s are still there. They are maintained, and they continue to see pretty consistent usage, whether they are just the simple stone benches that are found throughout the park, or the bridges, or the tables or shelters. So thank you.
Thank you, Gloria.
Great job.
Yeah. Yes, very good.
I wanted to add that I have received a lot of I wanted to give acknowledgement to the people who aren't here but may watch this video later. I have received a lot of emails from different residents, Bloomington constituents, talking about the park, talking about the road. I will probably include all of those emails because I've continued receiving emails today with different opinions. There is a diversity of opinions and thoughts on the park, on the road, and on everything around it. So I'll probably just include those in the packet for the next meeting and or hearing if the HPC decides to proceed that way.
Okay, thank you. So what you need from us tonight, if we want to make any changes to your presentation, to the...
Yes, I believe Chris Sturbaum has already emailed me, like finding some little typos and stuff that need to be corrected. So that's something that I'll be working on as well.
So the map
is there an action that we should take at this meeting, or are we going to wait to take any action at the December meeting?
So the main action that you will take today is to say we are going to have a hearing on December or not.
So would revisions to this need to be done soon, or could they be ready by the next meeting?
Revisions should be ready by the next meeting because
Okay,
the
so we have
next
time.
meeting, yes, the next meeting, if you decide to proceed with the nomination, whatever you sign off on the next meeting is what goes to Common Council. So if you do decide, hey, we just want to do the Lower Cascades, that's what goes to Common Council. If you decide, like, oh, why not just incorporate everything and include Griffey? You know, like, I'm just talking out of my, but what I'm trying to say is, like, now is a moment to say, like, okay, we don't need to talk about this more. We're good to go. Or you can say, like, but what about this little thing? So.
All right, Matthew.
We don't need to talk about this anymore. We're good to go. I think this one is a no-brainer. I think, Chris, you did an outstanding job. I think the argument is clear, is simple, and again, of all the sort of districts of this nature, I think this one, again, is a no-brainer. It's well argued, well supported, I'm ready. With 10 minutes to go, I'm going to just put a motion on the table. I move that we go, that we have that hearing, or we take the next step, or whatever motion it is you need for us to proceed.
Okay.
I move that.
I'll second.
Very good.
Very good.
Okay.
Dee?
Marlene Newman,
Yes.
Daniel Schlegel,
Yes.
Sam DeSaller,
Sam. Oh, Sam left us.
Sam fled.
Matthew Seddon,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
Bernard Cross.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Awesome. I think this is a good move for us. Absolutely. So let's, we got any old business to talk about?
I wanted to say that we have formally closed the chapter on 620 South Ballantyne Road. The owners were very diligent in listening to the Historic Preservation Commissioner's recommendations. I also wanted to.
Is this the columns?
This is the
Yes, the
columns.
columns.
The
The
columns.
columns are there.
The
Do you have
columns.
any pictures?
I don't have any.
I need
I-
verification of this.
I can open the emails. I can open up some of the emails.
No, they did awesome.
Sorry, we're going to see it.
Yeah, we need to,
But
we need to
the
have a drive-by tomorrow.
the commissioners were able to. I don't recall which of the commissioners, but some of your fellow commissioners were actually able to find pretty much an exact match for the pebbles that had been used in
Yeah,
the
I mean,
original
it's-
Pebble Dash.
Just remind me
Yeah.
what to run follow of this commission.
Yeah, it's great. Very good.
Because
There are still other
If
cases
I
that
can get a
are
minute.
that will require following up with legal, but you will get other updates in the future. There are some cases that have been able to be resolved without having to come. So with NOVs, if the person restores the column or the object, not necessarily the column, but if they fix it and staff sees it, it doesn't even have to come to the HPC. So that there are some good news there. There are other things that we can give you a follow-up later, but staff still needs to sit with legal and hash some things out. But at least 620 South Ballantyne has been restored. And all the materials were great.
Daniel?
I had something separate I wanted to try to squeeze in at the end before 7 o'clock when we have to leave.
Okay.
So
Oh, yeah, very quickly, go for it.
I want to make sure. Okay. So I just have to take off my commissioner hat. So as director of the History Center, and we have Hillary Fleck, our curator, online for this part as well. We have been starting to explore getting storm windows for the History Center for several different reasons. We've applied for grants, so we hope to be, Gloria has sent me everything to apply for a COA. I just wanted to come in informally at the end of a meeting just to make sure we cover all of our bases, just because the History Center, the old Carnegie Library, is the largest part of our collection, literally the largest piece of our collection. And as our curator has said before to other folks, is we want to save, because we still have original windows, the original wood. We want to save all that. So we've explored both interior and exterior storm windows. We very much prefer the exterior. I know he's not here, but Duncan recommended a company out of Cincinnati that several other people.
Allied.
Thank you. I cannot think of their name, but thank you for that. You knew exactly who I was talking about. They were great. And so we have everything from a window assessment to Sam came out as an architect just to help explain, just simply as an architect to help make sure we understood what the assessment and the quote from Allied was. So with Hillary on the line here, we're just here to, if you want to ask us any questions or have concerns about what we'd like to do, but we do plan on submitting a COA very soon for Gloria to review.
I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
So on the Hirons building, I put on interior storms on those enormous windows. I was wondering why are you choosing exterior versus interior? Just curious.
So
Are
for
they real, like, operable? What are the?
technically, there's only one that's operable, but we really don't need operable windows.
So these were just the ones I used were panels, just glass panels.
So we also have the two-story, I don't know if you've been inside the History Center. Okay, so we have a rather large two-story cabin inside there. So part of it is, instead of having part of the windows interior, part of them exterior, it'd be difficult to get behind that. And so this will protect the outside, and then in addition to that, with our unhoused population, we have had this past summer, one of the windows on the lower level punched out.
Okay.
And so we're hoping to try to prevent, just having that extra barrier for us, and it'll help protect the wood on the outside.
So are you using glass, or is it some sort of plexiglass thing?
Hillary, do you happen to, are you live, Hillary? Do you remember if it's glass or if it's some sort of a plexi? I want to say it's a glass.
The glass as well, and it has a very high rating of UV protection, which also will be very helpful for the collection inside.
Because not just the UV, but also the temperature and humidity, right, Hillary? With having that second, the storm window is that second barrier. And they did address, I know it's come up with other petitioners before the commission, with the condensation between the two. So Allied did talk about and address how they would prevent that from happening.
So and you're going to restore the windows exterior now before you put the...
Yes.
Okay.
Would that be a staff review? Could that be a staff review?
Depends. I will probably talk to legal about it. It could very well come to the HPC just because it is either a notable or outstanding building. But that being said, this is the type of protective work project proposal that I don't want to speak for the commission, but I am glad that this proposal is coming to us.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
All right, any other questions? Comments?
No.
Yes,
If we're
Chris?
gonna quit otherwise.
Thank you, Hillary.
Yes, thank
I want to
you.
read one thing if I could. This is 1924, at the dedication of Cascades Park. Prominent Bloomington physician said this: "I am proud of our Bloomington today, and we have a right to be. In the early times, without number, we used to drive down Old North Pike through what is now Cascades Park, enjoying to the fullest this spot and ever marveling at the lavish beauty bestowed by nature and ever dreaming of the way and means sometime by which it could be permanently preserved for all time to come. This dream has now been realized." That's 100 years ago. So, our turn.
That's very good. Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Are we done?
Yes.
Okay.
We're adjourned.
We have to adjourn.